Hello everyone, my name is Amal Idriss. I'm the founder and CEO of Idriss Publishing House. Today is day 17 of the writing challenge. I think I've done just over 3,000 words, which is really cool. It's like 3,200 and something, which is really cool. My book of the day is this book I just got, and took months and months to get to me. Yes, I'm totally excited. I feel like the $1 billion bill. Anyway, this is Steve Toombs and Dave White's The Corporate Criminal. It's a brilliant book. I've gone through it in like no time. It talks about corporate harm, the structure of irresponsibility in a corporation. It's absolutely brilliant. Um, it's really good. I've always found it quite relevant, simply because something you find really, really weird is that you won't find a healthcare system in like Africa, like in Somaliland, Djibouti, but you'll find a Coca Cola corporation. You won't find good education and welfare, but you'll find corporations and oil companies. So that's why it's really interesting. That's just me telling it how it is. um, I would definitely like to see corporations be controlled by society instead of society being controlled by corporations. So it talks a lot about that. Um, it's a brilliant book. I would definitely recommend you go out and buy it, especially if you're an activist or you study criminology or even law. Like, it's a brilliant book. It's quite very Marxist, why corporations should must be abolished. It's really, really good. Steve Toombs is a brilliant academic, and he was also like a huge lecturer at Open University, and in the UK. And Dave White is also a huge lecturer in the universities in the United Kingdom. So, like, their content is very high quality. Like, in future, like, I aspire to write like them, because when you read them, you know you're reading them. You can hear their voice in what you're reading, and that's very inspirational, because like when you write as an author, as a writer, you're very intimidated about the content that you put out. You think, what if they say, what if they think, what if it's too much? I think that's the worst bit, because people who write tend to be sometimes quite self-conscious about their content, because it becomes a part of them. So you're very intimidated about your tone. Sometimes I always worry that I'll use other authors' work and reference it so heavily to the point that you won't hear my own voice in my work. That's my biggest challenge in my to be honest, because I love reading other people's work, but sometimes it becomes you realize that you're literally like quoting them so often, and it's just really refreshing. But I would also definitely recommend the book, because it talks about corporate harm, and also my favorite is the state corporate relationship, to be honest, to maintain the status quo and the monopoly over civilization and society. So I've always found that to be quite interesting, because in Somaliland, society is encouraged to take a very, especially women, a very quiet tone. You can talk about things, just things that concern you specifically, but if you're talking about something that concerns all of society, it becomes quite frowned upon. And I've actually met some academics during my time here that have been arrested simply because they were accused of being spies. I think that is probably the worst one. So it's like that essence of freedom of speech. Like, people tend to defend it so heavily, but really, what are you defending? Because you're not defending me, you're defending your right to just go about your life, really. So I've always found that thing really interesting. Another really weird thing is that I strongly do not believe that society can grow through social policy, and it's really bizarre. Being here, I've actually learned to embrace how social policy is counterproductive. So from that perspective, it's also really interesting. For example, in the United Kingdom, fees have gone up 3 times as much, like threefold. So that's pretty shocking. Whereas previously, students didn't have to pay for education. So it's about that. We depend on our government to protect us and provide basic welfare and things like that. Whereas in the end, we end up becoming victims of that decision almost. I won't say victims, but I'd say definitely some essence of it. We are victimized by our governments because we're quite oppressed, encouraged to be silenced, coerced, definitely, to do certain things that are considered acceptable. Like, for example, if I left the house today and I started preaching outside, I would be arrested. Similarly, if I was in the United Kingdom and I was protesting, chances are I'd get moved or something would happen to prevent me expressing my freedom of speech. So, I'm sorry, Voltaire, but although we're all defending my right to the death, apparently, to defend my freedom of speech, I do not think that I should have to fight for it. I think it should be mine anyway, which is why, because of that, society tends to view social policy as an element of growth, progression, development. So in that point, it can be argued that from a Foucauldian, or not even Foucauldian, like Nietzschean perspective, that society is actually getting worse. It's not getting better, it's getting worse. Because now we police people to the point where we also police what they think and what they're allowed to think, which is far worse. So it's about those impacts of ideology, but also discourse, but that's completely different. Because I found that to be very relevant to the topic, actually. For example, state-corporate relationship is always blurred. Whether it's state funding, the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, how the state feels like it's more important to police and build more prisons instead of, invest in people's education. That's pretty bad. So it's that idea of development, thinking we're going forward, but actually we're going back. We're taking 10 steps back and pretending it didn't happen. That's the way I view it. So the book talks about a lot of those things. It's brilliant. I would definitely recommend it. I'll show you the book again, because it's a brilliant book. The Corporate Criminal. It's brilliant. Why corporations must be abolished. Because we talk like we keep them going, but now it's as if we go through life as if they keep us going, which is very counterproductive. So I'll let you guys, on that note, visit my website for more information, www.amalidris.com. I encourage you to just devote a couple of minutes of your time and also make a donation to Boromir's Orphans, an orphanage in Somaliland with over 600 children who do not receive any welfare, do not receive any support from the government. And I attempt strongly to do everything in my power to keep them going. So please make a donation at www.idrisspublishinghouse.com. On that note, both links are at the description. For more information, send me a message or anything if you'd like to talk about anything I've spoken about in the past videos. So day 17, wish me luck, happy writings everyone. Idriss Publishing House, Invest to Inspire.